weekly news review, global weekly news review. And basically, on these sessions, we talk about money matters, um, news that affects your pocket, and we unpack it and tell you what you should be doing. And so, if this is something that is interesting, it is something that you think you need in light of the economy, then I think you should subscribe and hit the notification button so that you don't miss out on subsequent episodes. Now, my name is Ola. I'm the founder of the Money With Club and also the founder of olaolalile.com. And basically, what we do is that we provide financial education um, across different demographics, right? So you can check us out and also subscribe to our newsletter for free content. And so today we'll be talking about very interesting things. There has been a lot in the news. Let me see. Can you see me? So there's a lot of interesting news from Uganda to Kenya to the US again, and Nigeria. And that's what we will go through today. So basically, we'll start with the global news. So what has been happening in the global financial services space that could possibly affect you? The first thing that happened that I want to discuss today was the glitch, right? There was a glitch on the New York Stock Exchange that made prices of some certain stocks like really crash. And so there's a stock called Berkshire Hathaway. It's the stock of one of very big boys. And basically the stock is about $600,000, right? That is the price per unit of a stock of that stock. And the stock price, for whatever reason, crashed to about $185. And people traded at those levels, meaning that people bought. But the stock, and this kind of things could be seen as a cyber attack, that something happened. But the New York stock market came out to say that no, it was a glitch. They had upgraded their system and they resolved it. So they canceled all the trades that went through at that price. Now, why are we highlighting it? Because when we push and we talk about the stock market and we say we should invest, a lot of people are scared because they just feel, oh, I can put my money there and it can get lost. If I buy a stock, how do I know that it's my own? But this is just a reminder that there are actually people tracking the market, regulating the market, making sure that things are going fine. And guess what? The way the stock market is, wherever you are in the world. Okay, so when I say wherever I do, let me qualify it. If you have dematerialized your stocks in your country, in your jurisdiction, meaning that when you buy a stock, it's not going to be paper that you would receive, then I tell you for free that if you bought those stocks 10 years ago, all you just need to go to do is to walk into a stockbroking house wherever you are, as long as it's no longer paper, and they can track all those stocks for you. They can give you outstanding dividend. Your stock will be where it is. Nobody can touch it. Yeah. So this is an encouragement. The stock market is one of the largest consistent wealth generators in the world if you stick with it, right? And I mean, we talk about these things in the club, and we have a lot of people who are members of the club who first start off with being very wary of the stock market. And I understand, because the two times you hear about the stock market is either when the cheese has moved and the stock market has really like gone gaga, like with plenty of money, or when people are losing money. In between, when normal life is happening and people are just gently making money and going in and out of transactions, you don't hear much about it. So people's minds are biased towards you're either losing money or you're making money when it comes to the stock market. But there's a lot of money to be made there. So I encourage you. And if you are in Nigeria, there's a way to buy US stocks out of Nigeria. If you don't know, we will tell you how to in the club. Yeah. But yeah, as we go along, please just state your name. I can see some people have joined. State your name and where you're calling from, where you're joining in from, and we'll be sure to do a shout out. And we're looking out for your chats. Yeah. And then the next news out of America, which is this one was quite interesting, is about our global President Trump. And the fact that he was charged for distorting the 2016 elections. And basically, what were they saying? That he had a story that would have come out that would have tilted the elections against him, but he paid someone off to be quiet, right, and not to release the story. And that's what he was charged for. And he was found guilty. Now, What does this mean? Why are we even talking about it? Because it's somewhat politics. Well, the truth about it is that US politics is the politics of the world. And if you know anything about politics, politics trumps mathematics and business idea. Meaning that if the political environment does not support what you are doing as an investor, right? You are totally so the US elections are coming up, and and Trump seems to be the major contender for the what's their name now? Democrats and the what's the other people? Their name just flew off my head, but the other people that are not Democrats, he just flew out of my head, right? And so this is supposed to be like slowing him down. But guess what? He's still going along. He's still doing his fundraising. He's still on his way. So I dare say that US elections are going to be very interesting. Now, why is it interesting for us if you are not in America? Because you have to track the policies that he says he's going to enact when he comes in. Why? Because it's a queue. And so you look at those policies and say, how would it affect you positively or negatively? That's how analysis is done so that things don't shock you. That's the idea of this session, that things don't shock you. You can actually say, okay, this is probably what's going to happen when he comes, and this was probably going to happen if Biden stays, right? Biden obviously is on a make people happy MP right now. I'm trying to do as many things to make locals happy, to bring out good numbers, blah, 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 because it will help him to win, to get reelected. But Trump is coming with fresh ideas, right? So let's think about that. I see some people have said hi. Hey, hi, Shuaib. How are you? Shoaib from Saudi Arabia. Thanks for joining in. Now, the next news, I'll leave Shoaib there to be the star of the day. If you are listening in, please just be sure to say hi and be sure to shout you out. The next news is out of Africa, right? And then so Kenya used the World Bank loan. They just took a World Bank loan, and the purpose of that loan is to pay down their Eurobond. So, if we had a session at the start of the year talking about the sub-Saharan African Eurobonds market and what the outlook was, and our guest on that session in the club, I dare say, was very particular about the fact that a lot of African countries were very close to a default. Like we're this close to a default. Any additional negative wind and they will just not be able to pay. And that's what we have seen with Zambia, and we have seen with Ghana. Now, so we listed out all the countries that will look good, and like, no, these people are on the verge of a default. Now, what did Kenya do to avert that default? They reissued a $1.5 billion bond, right? Like 2, 3 months ago. So they got 1.5 billion, and then they now took a 500 million loan from the World Bank to pay down. Now we have mixed feelings about this. The first side is that it is good. They are going to pay down. There's no default, and we keep it moving. But it also just shows the fragility of their economy. They are working hard. We shout a lot about Kenya and what Kenya is doing, and I dare say we should look into it. But on the other hand, know that there are still issues. It is not, they're not yet out of that walking on a thin line, right? And they need to be careful. And so it is good that they're able to get the loan. It's good that they're able to pay off, but we also need to be mindful. That is why, and then high return. Don't forget, high return is always a reward for high risk, right? So when you see their double digits, when you see their high single digit euro bonds, know that there is a reason. But yet it's just a caveat, knowing that okay, we talk a lot about Kenya, but we also know that they are still in the works and they're still growing. Now, the next news also is about bonds. Uganda is also now. This is one of the things. The fact Okay, I'm back. I saw that I tripped up for a bit. I was trying to set up my backup or connect to my backup. So yeah, we're back. So Uganda. So I want to talk about the place of loans, right, in financial services. Number one, debt rules the world, right? You might say equity. I've talked about equity. Equity is good, blah blah blah. But if the total equity in the world is 1 trillion, the total debt in the world is like 3 4 trillion. It is what is running the world. So that if you've heard about US debt ceiling and how they want to shut down the government. US government shut down. All that news is that US has borrowed more than their regulatory, their legal has reached their legal, their allowed or their agreed on set limits for borrowing. And if they don't borrow more, they won't be able to pay bills. So debt rules the world. Even developed societies are run by debt. So debt in itself is not the issue. It is what you're using the debt for and is your capacity to pay back. I dare say there's some borrowings that it almost looks like they're going to keep. I mean, when you see treasury bills maturing and then you see them renewing, it's debt. They're just renewing it. That's what governments do. That's it. But the risk is when you're borrowing a different currency, and the risk is when you are what it should do, right? For example, if you put money into infrastructure, ideally there should be a level of development within that society, right? Such that you shouldn't need to do roads again if it is done well, right? Or actually done. Now, those are the issues when comes to Africa because a lot of the debt is unaccounted for in terms of the impact that it is supposed to make. We can't like tie it to the impact it's supposed to make, right? That's where the issue is. But if it's about countries borrow. That is it. That is what countries do. They borrow. They borrow and then they give us an opportunity as investors to actually plug in. Countries borrow. No, that's a no piece. But when you are looking at the country and its debt profile, it is more around how much is their revenue, how much are they generating, and are they actually deploying it? And what is the end game? Is this project they're deploying it into bankable? Those are the things that you consider, but that the country will not borrow, they will continue to borrow. No, that's a no piece. And then we come to Nigeria. Now for Nigeria, there's this whole drama. I think this morning there was some news I saw around the government proposing 64,000. I'm not sure if true, but that's the latest update I saw feed into my come into my feeds rather. But basically, I want to talk about the minimum wage thing, right? Now, there's one part where yes, prices have gone up, right? So a pay adjustment is important. But guess what? We already have an inflation issue. If more money is chasing few goods because we have a production issue, we have a scarcity issue, we have a food security issue, I dare say that it's going to make inflation go up some more. Yeah. So whilst it is good that the government is increasing for let's say for price, while it's good that the government is going to increase salaries, I dare say that while they are doing that, they also need to focus on structural issues that are making prices high, and managing FX also, because that salary, that 400K they are talking about, if they even get it, which yeah, if they even get it, it's not going to benefit anybody. It's just going to make things worse for everyone, especially those who work in companies that are not going to be able to adjust to that 400K. It cannot work. It just cannot work. Especially, and then when you now consider the states and the fact that you're already struggling to pay salaries, just know that it's a dream. But yes, salaries need to be increased at least to adjust for the current realities. But on the other hand, there's some other work that needs to be done. And I dare say that I presume that I think that that's what the NLC should be fighting for, along with the salary increase, or else salary increase is not going to benefit anyone. And just imagine you're going to be paying minimum wage of 400K. Okay. Myself, people that have worked for 4 years in bank may not be earning 400K right now. So what are we really saying? How many people are they going to be? And there's a chance that people can get fired on the back of that if it has to be enforced everywhere. But then I hear that it's only enforceable with companies, private companies that have more than 25 staff. That's what I think it is. So it doesn't apply to everyone. It doesn't apply to you paying your driver. It doesn't apply to all that. Yeah. And finally, oh, I didn't mention. So I talked about the Money with Club, and let me just drop the link so you can check it out if you're interested. Yeah, and finally for Nigerian news, Heritage Bank. Hey, hey. The banking sector was in the news again this week, and what happened was that the central bank revoked the license of a bank called Heritage Bank. Now, Heritage Bank, there used to be a bank called Societe General Bank that had issues at some point, but still had a license. And then there was some legal battle thing, and they came out and said Societe Bank could still exist, right? So they came back, rebranded. They ended up buying a company called a bank called Enterprise Bank, which was a former Spring Bank and some Spring Bank, Citizen Bank that merged together, but weren't really doing very well, And I think the government stepped in and brought in new management, and when they made them Enterprise Bank, if I remember clearly. But basically, Heritage Bank was a bank that had historical issues. And I dare say that in terms of becoming a frontline bank, becoming a bank that is like present, it really struggled to do so and has been hanging on the lifeline for a long while. Part of the information we're hearing is that one of the things that had some support from another bigger bank and central bank what's the word? Central bank instructed that bank to pull out that support, right? Because that bank also needed that liquidity, right? And I won't name names, but it's Treasury gist. I used to be in Treasury, so that's why you hear these things, right? And so that was one reason. And then I guess also central bank in making that decision was saying there's no point supporting this bank. Now, if you think about if you've ever heard of central bank lender of last resort, what usually happens is that when a bank has issues, and maybe there's a run, people are not bringing money to the bank, everybody's asking for their money, is the central bank that steps in and gives the bank liquidity just for that period. And central bank in this situation is saying that I'm not interested in investing in this particular company at this time. It is not systemically significant. Going on to my next point, that there are banks that are called systemically important banks in Nigeria. It is good for you to know them. First Bank, Zenith, UBA, Access, Polaris. I think there's one more, but yeah, at least those ones. GTB, of course, GTB. Yeah. UBA, I think I've said. So yeah, those ones. Now, those banks have been defined as systemically important, meaning that they are too big to fail. That if any of these banks fails, it will affect the nation's financial services industry negatively. So the central bank will do everything they can to make sure that these banks stay alive. So that being said, when you're thinking about where to put more than 5 million, because NDIC, NDIC, National Nigeria Deposit Insurance Company, would pay everyone when they shut down the company, the bank. So everybody that has 5 million, everybody will get 5 million or below. So if you had a 500k balance, you get your 500k balance. But if you had 10 million as a balance, you get 5 million, right? And then when they've liquidated, sold all the assets, recovered all the bad loans, all those, they will now prorate. So if the total they get is 1 billion, then you now say, you come, your percentage of that 1 billion is going to be 0.01. So take 100k. So if you're looking for where to put your 5 million, if you have more than 5 million, looking for a bank to bank, we're going to look at banks that are systemically important. Zenith Bank, I didn't mention Zenith. Yeah, it's one of them. We want to look at a systemically important bank and kind of think about packing your your market there. Just because CBN will do everything they can to make sure that these banks are in order. Oh, I see some more people. Hi, Andrew from Lagos. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for joining in. And this is the end of the session. I dare say that I'm going to drop. I hardly don't remember sometimes talk about the club, but you are welcome to join the club if you want to find out more. Visit our website, and I will end with a. Let me see if I have a testimonial. Oh, I don't have one scheduled. Okay, I'll end next time. I'll do a testimonial so you know more about the club. But yes, thanks for everyone for listening in, and have a beautiful weekend. Please subscribe to my channel. Oh my goodness, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button so that you do not miss episodes, and also share with your friends. Be a good friend. Bye.